can't say that now.
Welcome to the Ultimate Client Strategy Podcast. I'm Lisa Rosenthal, and I'm joined today by my partner and co-founder, Bruce Libman. And our guest is Pablo Velez. He's a friend and a colleague, and as you can see from his name, he's an immigration attorney. Welcome, Pablo.
Oh, thank you, Lisa and Bruce, for having me.
Yeah, we're thrilled that you're here.
You know, it's easy to guess you're an attorney by sitting with your background, all right, with all the legal books behind you.
Yeah, I just have 3 more left to read, so I'm almost there.
Okay, sure. All right. Look, we know you for several years, and my question is, what drove you to immigration?
I think, it was really a way to pay things forward. My family comes from Cuba. I've seen what, opportunities this country's given them, and I see the struggles that people would have just growing up and everything like that, dealing with the legal system, dealing with, just doing anything if they weren't bilingual. So I kind of saw it as an opportunity for me to use, the passion that I had to help folks in those situations and the skills that I had in order to, bring some value to their lives. I wasn't originally going to be an immigration lawyer. I actually started off, I was at the Elliott School of International Affairs at George Washington University. So I was actually going to be on the other side and was going to be a consular officer. But after moving to New York and taking the bar and sort of feeling out different options, I landed on this and it just, felt like the right thing to do.
And you have a very unique partnership.
I do. So, I'm here in New York full time. My partner spends most of his time in Tokyo, Japan. So, we cover 24 hours of time difference for the workday. And we've been doing that for about 14 years now. It all started off with an interesting business opportunity that we chased, and then it turned into an accidental law practice where a lot of his contacts were asking about opening businesses in the US and how they could transfer themselves and other workers here back and forth. So we created a practice around that, and we still do it to this day, among other things.
Well, one of those other things is also a unique space, right? Which is the DJ space.
Yeah, so we landed on that through our of counsel, who is an entertainment attorney, who's spending most of his time now representing esports clients. But he and his father, when they were working together, and his father had been in practice for about 45 years or so, always into music, every aspect of it, the IP side, copyrights, trademarks, contract negotiations, and things like that. And then he happened to meet a booking agent who was leaving a networking event who needed a visa done for DJ. We went ahead and did it, and then all of a sudden we were just being referred down the line, and we've made so many relationships over the years with booking agencies, so they're the ones who really feed us that business.
That's great. So Pablo, we know quite a bit about you. I'm happy to share that you have a heart as big as the planet. And you do some work with some nonprofit organizations that I'd love for you to share because the work they do is so important. And I think the work you do with them is remarkable.
No, thank you so much. And I've been on the board of the Epic Theater Ensemble for the last 4 years. It's a nonprofit that was founded, ironically, in New York in 2001, September. But what they do is they bring theater and now film education to underprivileged schools in the New York City metro. But since COVID, which actually created an opportunity to do things other than live theater, film and TV, and has become part of the component too. And now we have partnerships in the Seattle metro area, and we're working on LA as well. So it's expanding. We're looking to make partnerships with other school districts that would be interested in onboarding this kind of programming, this kind of content. And it's really interesting because they tackle a lot of socioeconomic issues, and the students who put on the plays, they write them, they produce them, they do all the stage work, they learn how to do all of that. Some of them even become professionals, and many of the early alumni are working professionally now in big shows like Law and Order, SVU. We have a few students as of late who have gotten accepted to Juilliard and Tisch and, schools of that nature. So it's really, not just a feel-good organization, but it's results driven as well.
That's great. So I'll ask you to share the information with me so we can share the information with all of our viewers. I know you get great satisfaction from working with them.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And thank you so much for highlighting that.
Sure. Look, this is all about getting to know the people behind, the profession and understanding relationships. We're called the ultimate client strategy for a reason, right? Bruce and I manage relationships and help facilitate relationships for decades and decades. And then having all of you share more about yourselves is an opportunity for people to connect on things other than immigration. So they may not have an immigration challenge, but you're a terrific human and a great person to know and a great connector, and they should reach out for many other reasons.
Oh, thank you very much. I feel the same about, you and Bruce, and I'm happy to collaborate, and I'm glad that we've had a relationship for the years that we have, and look forward to keeping it going in the future. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Pablo, what are some of the other things that you love to do or are passionate about outside of work? So we know about the nonprofit.
Yeah, so I'm involved in that nonprofit. I don't have a ton of hobbies these days because I guess most of my spare time is, if you can call it that, is chasing a 7-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old son around and taking them around to places and getting them from after school and the activities that we do. We take road trips. We actually drove from here to Miami and back for their spring break as opposed to flying, just to make some stops and, kind of have a different experience. And we're planning on going to Vermont in the next couple weeks to check that out, the Ben and Jerry's factory and that during Memorial Day. So traveling with them is a lot of fun. Them, my wife, and that kind of occupies the majority of my time. But when I am able to, sort of get what interests me creatively, I do quite a bit of writing. I am working on and completing the first draft of a book about immigration for professionals. But outside of that, I enjoy creative writing, screenwriting. I actually produced a short film about a 2016 interview that I took some clients on and made it into a short film, and it did pretty well. It got accepted into about 13 film festivals, and we got nominated for 2 awards, one for Best Editing, one for Best Actor. Always a bridesmaid. We didn't win either, but it was nice to just, literally be selected and get to do that. And I'm always collaborating with folks in that industry. I used to be a member of the Friars Club when it was still open. Unfortunately, it isn't anymore, but I tend to have that sort of artistic side that I guess doesn't really, blend naturally with immigration, or at least like not on the surface. So, it's always good to talk about it when I have an opportunity.
That's awesome.
Wow.
So what do you think you would do if you weren't an attorney?
I'd been giving this some thought the other day. If I wasn't, I mean, ideally, I would be, a film producer if that was not, it didn't even have to be lucrative. If I could make a living from it, produce things independently, nothing in particular, like no projects in particular. I just like the process in creating stories, and I'm always up for collaborating with people on what they want to do. I have my, stable of things that I'm working on, but I would probably do that. But if I needed a day job, I believe it or not, and maybe it comes across on the camera, but I am introverted, so I would easily be a librarian. No problem.
I wouldn't have expected you to say that. Bruce is laughing too.
Absolutely, okay, yeah. Because I'm
Don't,
an introvert,
yeah,
and I never thought of an occupation of being a librarian. Maybe that's what I should have done in my life.
Never too late, Bruce.
Oh, it's not too late.
So, Pablo, do you have a particular structure or routine that helps you stay grounded and has maybe attributed to some of your ability to move your practice forward and some of your success?
Feeling grounded is probably not something that I can relate with as of late, especially just as chaotic as everything is. And, immigration is just one of those things where you have to be very comfortable being uncomfortable because laws change, procedures change more so than the underlying laws, but how the government processes certain people and things like that. So you always have to sort of be on your toes, know if there's something that can be applied for that didn't exist before, know what cannot be applied for because someone took it away. It's constantly moving and being uncomfortable. And I think what keeps me most grounded, and at least in the sense of being able to operate, move forward, and sort of serve clients well, is just taking it case by case, never sort of making any assumptions based on, okay, if, so and so had this situation and someone has an analogous situation, we're gonna just put them through the machine and do the same thing. It really comes down to just creating a custom experience for every single person who comes in. And that may sound inefficient, but it's really not, because it's really just, a lot of people come and they want, or they say that they want a certain visa or a certain status, or that's sort of what they come with. That's the context. But I like to switch the conversation on them quickly if they do, and ask them how is it that they want to interact or live in the US or interact with the US, because that's a little better than someone coming in saying like, "Oh, I want a work visa," because I can get you a work visa, but how long do you want to work here? Do you eventually want to just live here? Do you eventually want to just not work here, own a business? Do you eventually want to leave and not worry about paying taxes as a US resident, if that's the case? So it involves a lot of analysis and just, really listening to what the client wants outside of sort of the superficial answer that they'll give you, and get down to, how you can really help them.
It's so interesting because, of course, at this moment in time, immigration is a big subject in the news and in all of our worlds. Are you seeing it affect some of your clients' staff, some of the employees? Do you have companies reaching out asking, what do we do about this? What do we do about that? How do we?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll give you a very, very, very specific example that happened yesterday, and we're following up tomorrow, actually. A client called, has a cleaning service, and one of the employees is at risk because she was paroled in and given what's called temporary protective status, which is when the government kind of designates that a specific country gets like a blanket asylum. They basically say, if you've entered the US between X date and X date and you're from X country, we will give you work authorization, the ability to stay here without any issue for a certain period of time. And that can renew indefinitely. There's people who are here from countries like Haiti that have been here since 2010 on TPS. There's people that have been here from Honduras and El Salvador when there were earthquakes there in the mid 90s since then. So, it's something that's very discretionary, and the White House has a lot of control over. And depending, politically where someone is, they may offer that to more countries or take it away from certain countries. So when it gets taken away, then all of a sudden, folks who were here and they were comfortable are now scrambling to figure out, sort of what to do.
I know immigration is a complex conversation, and it's politics completely aside, it's still a complex conversation. We are a sovereign country with borders. So, like all other countries in the rest of the world, there are immigration policies. There are other countries where if you're not a citizen, you can't own land. There's each country has their own set of issues around immigration, right, and laws. So when they change, and I know they've changed pretty drastically recently, I'm sure it turns your world upside down, right? Because you predominantly work for corporate clients who have employees. Is that correct?
Yes, not only corporate clients that have employees, so these are US companies that are hiring foreign workers, and those foreign workers are on visas, but also foreign nationals who have self-sponsored their own visas into the US and have hired US workers and workers from their own home country or, third countries. So they also face, a slew of issues. And like you said, politics aside, it really, I think that, overall, the consensus, even amongst the most, liberal immigration attorneys, is that the US should have laws, should have control over who comes in and out and what they're allowed to do, based on different things. but there are a lot of unique challenges presented to foreign nationals that are doing business here, even ones who are well-to-do, who can support themselves, and if anything happened, they can go back and live in their home country, like, without any issue. But just to give you an example, there's banks in the US that don't really like to hold funds that from foreign-owned companies. So our clients on several occasions from major banks, I mean, this isn't, the local banks are actually a little bit, or they're a little bit more flexible when it comes to this, but sort of the larger banks, they don't feel comfortable after a certain amount of time or whatever it is. And it's not people from specific countries, it's just foreign nationals in general. And they'll send 60-day notices, hey, we intend on closing your account, please, basically tie up your affairs. So we see issues like that. We see people who lose their status have to sort of scramble to figure out, oh my God, can I get into something else that'll let me keep a social so I can keep my job and stay here? We see that quite a bit too.
But
So
don't the employers sponsor the employees?
yes, well, there's a mix of things, right? So there's direct sponsorship, and then you have people who are here on different statuses, like the temporary protective status, or TPS, that are sponsored through government intervention. So they're not directly sponsored. Also, there are certain work visas that allow for the spouse to have universal work authorization. So it's kind of a domino effect. So let's say a spouse that is the principal visa holder loses their status, their spouse in turn as a dependent is going to lose their work authorization unless they get sponsored independently. So, there's a lot at play. And like you said, it's very complex.
So many different parts and pieces that I think us, the general public, don't necessarily understand. It's not so black and white. It's not so easy.
Oh no, no, not only is it not so black and white, but I think the media distorts the conversation around immigration, and I don't think they purposely do it. I think it's just general ignorance because politicians even don't get the language right and make mistakes all the time with respect to, asserting different things or whatever it is that just aren't true, and they use the wrong words. Like, for example, the word deportation gets thrown around a lot. And, to the lay person, deportation just means you did something, we're kicking you out of the US. But deportation is actually a very specific thing because in order to be deported, the burden is actually on the government to show that that foreign national did something to violate the law, and then they kick them out because they were initially here lawfully. They did something, and they did something so egregious, now they're being removed through deportation. Whereas someone who comes in undocumented in the beginning, so uninspected, meaning they didn't come in with a visa or they use fraudulent documents or whatever it is, so those people have the burden to prove that they are lawfully in the US. So that's kind of the interesting thing there too. You have two different standards depending on how you came in. Whereas in criminal law, the burden's always on the prosecution. And immigration, if you're here lawfully, if you were inspected in, then the burden's on the government to show that you're going to get kicked out. If you were not, then the burden's on you. So it all depends.
So complicated.
That's why you need a professional like.
Well, that's why you need Pablo.
He takes that ball of wool and he takes it apart.
So do you also work with individuals? Can
We do.
individuals call you and ask for some support and help?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We work with folks from anything from fiance visas. So fiance visas are specific to U.S. citizens only. Green card holders can't do this, but if you're a U.S. citizen, and this is kind of a typical story, and they made an entire show about this called 90 Day Fiance if you're ever into junky reality TV. It's quite entertaining, and it makes sense that they did focus on the K-1 visa. But anyway, the U.S. allows citizens to sponsor serious significant others that sort of are making the leap to marriage, but not yet. So, they're for the fiance visa. So they have a commitment to marry. They've physically seen each other at some point in the last 2 years, and they can show that they have a bona fide relationship. They'll issue a visa so that person can come into the US. And then once that entry is made, there's a 90-day clock on going to City Hall or, going to the church, the synagogue, whatever you're going to do. So, and after that marriage takes place, then they can apply for a green card through the marriage relationship. We do that visa, which is the most tenuous, I guess, in terms of a family relationship or individual, to green cards through family. So you can sponsor spouses of U.S. citizens and green card holders. U.S. citizens can sponsor their parents as well. Green card holders can sponsor their children. Children under 21 years old are given priority. Children over 21 years old, they go into a quota system, and the State Department, they publish this every month. So they do an update of, where they are in terms of people applying and what date they have, how long it's going to take from there. And the relationships go as far as U.S. citizens able to apply for siblings that are foreign nationals to come in as residents. So we do all of that work. If a green card holder is interested in citizenship, we put in the citizenship petition for them as well, especially if they have, a past criminal record, and we have to sort of take a look at it and determine if it's going to be okay for them to move forward or not. So
That's great. That's great. So much to know, so much to learn. So it's great that you wrote a book. So that'll be exciting when that comes out to help professionals navigate, right? When and why and how before they ever meet you.
absolutely.
Very smart.
Yeah, so I mean, I really felt that something needed to be, put out that was accessible, that would allow folks to sort of do a general check on things before either running to an immigration lawyer and not knowing anything that's going on, not knowing what to bring, and not doing it themselves. Or if they are going to do certain things, at least they know what direction they need to sort of go in. And once they get scared, then they can come to the immigration lawyer. Because it's really just, it's like preventative medicine. It's better to get your checkup and see what's going on than, figure out something's wrong and then try to fix it. And then it's, yeah,
An educated client is the best client you could ever have.
absolutely.
Well, Pablo, this is really great and it was really informative. Thank you so much for spending a little time with us. We're going to give everyone your contact information. It'll be in our comments and the information we put out attached to this conversation.
Excellent. No, thank you both. Thank you for the opportunity, and always happy to collaborate, always happy to network with all the fine folks in the organization. So, thanks again.
Fantastic.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much.